Hi lovelies, and welcome. Welcome to this little craft with me video. I'm going to show you how I made this faux metal plate for the front of a journal. So going into materials, we need a ruler and some brushes. So you need at least one good brush with nice smooth bristles. I'm using a flat-headed brush. And you need one that has kind of old tatty bristles all spread out like that. I've got a mixing brush and I'm using some tiny rhinestones. This is just from some nail art for the little rivets, and I'm using embossing powder, doesn't matter what colour, I'm just using it for grit. Pencil, pokey tool, and then you want some pressed flowers and leaves. Got some gyp there, honesty works very well. Got some lovely grasses and maple seeds. You can use a skeleton leaf, and if you don't have pressed flowers you can also use die cuts, and I'll show you one that I do make with a die cut as well. And I'm using a pizza box. So for the dark samples we need black, red, orange, dark green, teal, and I'm using copper, but you can use another metallic. So this is just an ordinary acrylic paint. And for the lighter tin plate style we want white, buff, orange and yellow, black and red. Okay, so I'm going to start with this skeleton leaf and just measuring it up on a background. You can use thicker packaging if you want, doesn't matter, just any kind of cardboard is fine. So I'm cutting out 2 layers, one with a border a bit bigger, and just snipping off the very ends just to round it off a little bit. If you leave the bare side of the cardboard at the very back and do it picture side up, you're going to get a better adhesion onto your project, so that you have the bare cardboard to stick down. So that's why I'm doing the packaging side up, as you can see the black around the edge there. I'm covering the entire surface in glue and just going a bit thinner on the actual leaf, just because I don't want to obscure too much of that natural texture. I want those leaf veins to show through as much as possible. So just reapply some glue if your glue has dried on the edges, and I'm going to start sticking rhinestones. And these are the little metal rivets along the edge. I've switched to this one because I thought it might be easier for you to see. And often I've been leaving just one rhinestone missing so that I can add a little hole and a charm later, so that there might be like a rivet missing in one place. So with black and red I'm going to paint over the background and the leaf. Make sure that you get all the edges, because you don't want any packaging showing down the sides, and I'm applying the paint quite thickly to the background, and then on the leaf try and get it as thin as possible again, because you want those lovely leaf veins to show through as much as they can. So I'm just making sure that the background is covered and keeping that as thin as I can. So I'm using my scratchy brush now and going in with just a stippling motion all around the leaf, but not on the leaf. At this point I've just remembered that I haven't added the embossing powder. So the powder is not being embossed with, it's just providing some grit, and I was thinking originally I'd just use a bit of sand off the beach, but I haven't been to the beach, so I was just looking around the craft room to see what I could use. This pot of embossing powder, I never liked the colour, so it's just been sat there not being used, so I thought I'd just make use of it. It works fine for a bit of texture on the metal background. You might have something that you could use instead if you don't want to waste embossing powder. Yeah, so you just want a little bit of texture really. I did try glitter. Glitter was not quite working, it was a little bit too fine. So something with a sand-like texture would be good. And I'm just cleaning up a little bit of the excess paint there off the edge of the leaf. I'm doing this one, which is the die cut, just to show you that as well. And again, stippling on the background and using a smooth brush to clean up over the leaf part. So going on to the white samples, I'm mixing white with a tiny bit of buff just to make kind of a dirty white really, if you don't have that buff colour. Probably a bit of yellow or a tiny bit of brown, just to make it off-white, a little bit dirty. And the look that we're going for with the white ones is in like an enamel, an old enamel, and not the kind of shiny enamel cookware, but more like the tin plate signs or old garden ornaments that they kind of do in that vintage style that have just gone rusty. So that's the look we're going for. With the white, you probably find that you need at least one extra coat just to get all the packaging covered up and get a good coverage. I'm not adding grit to the white ones. I didn't think it needed too much texture, just sort of keeping in mind that tin plate kind of feel. So I'm adding texture as much as I can with a brush and paint on its own. So it is a little bit smoother than the other one. And again, just removing some of the excess. The original plan actually for these maple seeds was quite different. However, my paint let me down a bit. I was wanting to do like a bronze, kind of a sculptured effect, not rusted. But the only bronze paint that I could find actually was a spray, a distress bottle, which really didn't work at all. You can see that on the left hand side of my palette. That was that blobby bit. That's what that was. So that wasn't really working, so I kind of had to rethink. I hadn't practiced this one, the white one. This is just something that I did during the video. So I had to sort of change direction a little bit, and I think that these two samples that you see me working on right now, they ended up getting the seed part of it got painted over. So there is a little bit of continuity problems here. So I'm sorry about that. I've tried to show as much as I can of each step. So you will see all the steps, but you may not see them on the same sample. Yeah, so I think with the bronze idea, I feel as though I would still like to try that. I definitely need to get some bronze paint. So maybe I'll be able to update you on that. It was kind of looking quite good in my head, so I would still like to have a go. So I did have to change direction here and just go for a rusted effect. I'm quite pleased with how they came out. I think they look quite good. So I'm just using the orange and yellow to pick out a lot of the edges as well as the inner frame. Working on the corners and just trying to think about where it would rust more. So corners, edges, you can pick out some of the rivets as well. Maybe they will rust first. And just trying to take my time with it a bit. So this bit is speeded up. So as you can see, there's a bit of continuity error here. I will show you in a moment again, painting the black chipped parts, but I'm sorry I wasn't able to show it all. And just at the moment I'm covering over some of the darker areas. I felt it was a bit too orange, so going in with some more yellow paint, which is, it's quite hard to cover a darker colour with a lighter colour, so I ended up going over that a few times. Also this maple seed that you can see me painting here, that ended up, I think I painted over that again with white at the end because it was too much, too much colour, so just touching up here and there. So with the seeds, I think this one I went in with a lighter colour, yellow to start with, so this one looked better. So I was just wondering what I should do with the parts where I'm not narrating. I even considered singing to you. I thought if I try and add music, this is just another level of headache and heartache for me, looking at the technical side of video making. If you're very clever, you'll notice how many costume changes I've gone through. So that will give you an indication of how many days this video took me to film. So I've redone things so many times, you wouldn't believe. So I really didn't want to go down the adding music route. So a little bit of silence, I suppose, is not so bad. You could add your own music, I suppose, put something on that you like listening to. And I'm sure you've noticed that I'm just sliding off camera for a lot of these clips, so again, I'm really sorry. This is me trying to be really careful and making sure that I have my camera centered. So of course you can tell that I'm not very technically minded. However, you can just about see in your peripheral vision, I think, what I'm doing. Okay, so with red and black, I'm mixing a very dark brown again, and I'm just going to touch up most of the edges, just with a kind of an almost solid line. Trying to be mindful of, with these old tin plate objects, the edges really wear off very easily. They get chipped off and leave these kind of big lumps where the enamels come off and you can see the metal behind, so that's what we're kind of going for there, just to represent that. I think it's important also not to get too stressed about it if you don't feel very super talented. We're not really going for hyper-realism, it's more just a representation, just an effect, a look, and I think it works very well. I'm just doing it very simply. For this part you want to use a nice smooth brush. I'm using a flat-headed brush, and the bristles are nice and smooth on it, so it's not stippling. We don't want the stippling effect for the this dark part. So I'm picking out most of the edges and just here and there just going a bit thicker to represent where a bit of the paint has chipped off. Okay, so now we're going to rust up our darker samples that we were painting earlier with a dark brown background. I've got on my palette orange, teal and a bit of, it's a kind of an emerald green, which if you don't have, just you can pre-mix a little bit of the turquoise colour with some navy or some darker green and use that. So again, I'm just stippling in a little bit in the areas that I think might have rusted first. I'm using a very dry brush and trying not to let my paintbrush get clogged up so that the bristles stay separate and I get more of a stippled effect rather than blended. And where I'm mixing in teal also, again just trying to stipple that, cleaning my brush off to keep the colours separate, because I don't want the orange and the teal to blend in together too much. So that's where I had a missing rhinestone, so I made a little hole to add a charm later. And now we're ready to add the metallic effect. So this paint that I'm using, it's just a cheap acrylic. I'm using it with my finger. I'm quite happy to do that because I don't think that there is real copper in it. However, you would have to make that decision for yourself, so a little disclaimer. There's no toxicity warnings on the packaging. You can get other products, and the first couple that I had made, I did use a more purpose-made product. There's things like rub and buff, or you can get like a wax paste in metallic colours. To be honest, there was no discernible difference. I thought that this acrylic paint worked so well, and it was definitely a nice cheaper option. I couldn't tell a difference for the finished result. So this one is the die cut, which I think turned out quite well. A nice effect on the background. And I'm just showing you some of the different ones. I really love the grasses personally. Lovely and delicate. This is Honesty. And this one I've applied a bit more generously with the copper. I think that turned out quite nice too. And just a very simple sequin on a jump ring. Very simple. I think that the simple little charms work much more effective on these. And this background, you'll notice I did blend a bit more just to sort of see what the difference was, so it's slightly less stippling, more blending. A little copper tag on a ring. That's another maple seed. And this one was one of the earlier ones where I added a bit of white to the paint, a bit of white paint, which kind of made it look a bit more battered and old, I think. So just a slightly different look. Depends what you're after, really. I think I probably prefer it personally without the white. And this one is Burnet, which gave quite a nice result. I like this one. And this is an aspen leaf where I have given it a bit of a thicker coverage and a little safety pin with a bead. And that's what the tin plate ones look like when the paint is dry. And I think I have actually washed over with a little bit of white just to lighten those a little bit as well. And this is the one that you have watched me making, the skeleton leaf that we glued at the start. I've added it to, I just made a very simple little notebook with some cotton fabric for the cover. And some mixture of tea-dyed pages and a very simple tag, just one bead on a jump ring. I'm very pleased with how this has turned out. So there we go. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for that. And thank you to everyone for joining me today. I appreciate your time, and I will see you back as soon as I can. Take care all. Bye.